Hello and welcome to All the Way Down, a YouTube channel all about the Scottish rock band Biffy.
All the way down.
So Chris Fleming was the artist for the Infinity Land cycle series, shall we say, and the tour manager for Biffy Clyro, Neil Anderson, tweeted this. I think they were doing a bit of a listening party with Tim Burgess a while ago. Is that his name? From Charlatans? So tour manager Neil says, Chris Fleming created paintings for Infinity Land. The album cover, Glitter and Trauma, two related pieces that became the singles for My Recovery Injection, and only one word. Obviously he says Tim's listening party there. So obviously Jaggy Snake was out before the album, and that was just a colour print with the Biffy B on it, so that wasn't part of Chris Fleming's work. So he did the album cover and two singles, which we'll get to now. But in researching this, I found this bit of information about the album title. So the cover art was created by Chris Fleming. He created the cover art with the singles, as I've said. Simon Neil has stated in various interviews that the title Infinity Land is a reference to serial killer Jeffrey Dahmer. It was in a Jeffrey Dahmer book, and he talks about his ideal place, which he called Infinity Land. The idea of heaven, which is really grim, being surrounded by corpses and shit. You don't know what it's about. It could sound hopeful, but when you know what it's referring to, it becomes quite sinister. In a way, it's kind of cool that people don't know what you were referring to. That people make up their own meanings for things. It could be quite optimistic, but it's not. And obviously the album cover for Infinity Land, in terms of its colour in the background, you know, it does look quite optimistic in that it's kind of salvation, it's hallelujah, you know, it's the bright light that you're moving into, but the things in the foreground are obviously quite weird. I remember getting a huge poster of this on my bedroom wall when I was about 17, 18. I think it was a big promo for the album coming out, and it used to terrify my girlfriend at the time. But she married me, so there you go. So this is kind of very striking, different in terms of striking from the Vertigo of Bliss. This is all together quite dark and sinister. So it's got kind of religious undertones with the sort of Jesus pose, the Infinity Land, the Infinity symbol there. But it's kind of a mishmash of loads of different things put together that can be quite sort of terrifying. These kind of armbands that are wearing remind me of kind of Nazi Germany. Those kind of stripes that they used to wear. Gas mask, of course, sort of linked to war and being sort of under threat, but then it's kind of juxtaposed here with the weird ears, Mickey Mouse ears, I should say. So yeah, very odd, very striking. Not as striking as the Storm Thorgerson stuff that we've covered on the other video, but striking in that it's just something not right about it, and very dark, a lot like what Simon was referring to with the album title. And I don't know what these are here. I don't know what figures they are, but they're both smoking cigars, it looks like. Very odd indeed. Of course, they did Only One Word Comes to Mind as well. This is similar to My Recovery Injection, is in that it's a face, but something's wrong about it. So this is a painting, which is a really great painting because the use of light here, the kind of reflection on the forehead and on the hair, looks really realistic. And the fact that it looks realistic in places is all the more weird, in that you know that it's wrong because a part of it is missing. And there's actually a hollow face. There's a crack there and then a bit left out. Really great. Again, you see this on the shelf as a fan of the band, and you just want to pick it up. And that I did, and I love the B-sides to this this single as well. It's a great single, Only One Word Comes to Mind. Not really spoken of as much as other singles around this time. It's a great song. So this, to me, very similar to My Recovery Injection. And when I saw this, I thought it was Justin Timberlake. Obviously got a portrait of a person. This time it's a man. But he's got these nails just absolutely smacked into his face and neck. But he still looks at you like he's alive, and he's got a bit of a problem with you. But I really like it. Again, it's sort of quite minimal. Absolutely brilliant painting. The use of light here, you know, the way the sort of light's hitting the forehead and the chin. It's quite realistic, but something is not right because he's got nails in his head. So it could be good, but it's not, because there's obviously something wrong, which is sort of the theme of the album and what Psy's talking about. And let's move on to the final one, Glitter and Trauma. One of my favourite songs from the album, and we've got a gas mask linking it to the proper album cover, and this kind of snake moving around. I think this maybe would be more suitable to the Jaggy Snake single, because they talked about, you know, you twist, you turn, wrapping around me, and I think of a snake sort of wrapping around someone, and this is what I picture here. But again, very grey, very dark. The only real colour here is in the gas mask. But again, just something weird coming off it. These sort of weird ears. Not quite right. I don't think this is sort of standard in, you know, you buy a gas mask, you don't say, can I have ears with it? You don't get them. There's sort of a man in this kind of lonely position. Maybe it's signifying that he's lonely, alone, scared, terrified. And I do remember when I was on the forums in the early noughties, there was a band, and this kind of picture was unleashed into the world and onto the forums. The discussion was not how striking the image is and how weird and abnormal it is. It was why this leg isn't quite right. Because this leg goes up in a certain angle and then juts out here. And there was plenty of people on the forums not really happy with that, and how it was kind of a mistake. In the same with this leg as well, it goes up and then starts again here. So I think maybe the arms were painted first and then they went up here, but we're nitpicking. I think the single covers along with this is kind of juts out to me because there's a lot more colour in it, and a bit kind of more striking as an album cover. But the single artworks are quite monotone. If you're taking out this sort of red colour of the gas mask, maybe to show that the subject matter in the songs is quite dark, and where the band were at the time was quite dark, but then you're bringing out a bit of colour here. Maybe ironic colour with the actual artwork of the album. Just going back as well to the work of Chris Fleming, who did the work for Infinity Land. If you actually Google his stuff, you'll find this website, haltstyle.co.uk, Chris Fleming illustrations. You don't get much, but you do get the Infinity Land cover, as well as the Glitter and Trauma cover. But you also get this, which looks a bit more like Milo Manara's stuff, in this kind of figure and her. And this is kind of a blog, I think, a blog post maybe. I ran through my old CDs the other day and found Infinity Land by Biffy Clyro, which I quite like, although the first album is far by the best. Yeah, it's better than Infinity Land, but yeah. Hadn't listened to it in ages. Whilst listening to it, I looked on the album cover and I always found it strangely scary and attractive. Strangely and scarily attractive. I remember I had a massive poster of the CD cover in my house, so did I, as a student. I thought it was a masterpiece of our shared living room at the time. Imagine being flatmate of this guy coming in one day and having that up on your wall. I tried to find out a bit more about Chris Fleming, the artist behind the cover. Unfortunately, I couldn't seem to find much more than what seems like an old student portfolio hosted by Glasgow University at the time. Chris's illustrations are up there and some really interesting. I don't know if he's still doing illustration nowadays or if he's adopted a pseudo. Is that a pseudonym maybe? I can't find much more about him. Yeah, same here. It's the only real thing I can find. Maybe he's just gone underground, but there is a comment here. Chris Fleming is a good friend of mine. If you would like a little more info, contact me and I'll find out if he wants to let go about himself. Maybe he's a bit of an introvert, doesn't like sort of showing off his stuff. But you know, if you've made the artwork for a huge band, Biffy Clyro, I mean they weren't particularly huge then, but they are now, I'll be making the most of that. You know, I'll be getting that out there. So that was the album artwork deep dive into the first 3 albums, Black and Sky, Vertigo of Bliss and Infinity Land. I'd love to know your favourites. I'm going to choose my top 3 right now. So for number 3, I'm going to go for the artwork for Infinity Land. I think it came out around the time where I was at my kind of peak of being a fan. This was when the new material was coming out. I discovered the band after Vertigo of Bliss. So when this album came out, I was really excited. Got it on the first day it was out. Remember having the CD, going to college and just absolutely falling over it. It's weird, it's wonderful. I got the big poster which covered an entire bedroom wall as a kid. So it will always have a place in my heart, even though it's at times terrifying. But the detail is really nice here on the jacket, and there's just loads of things to pick out to sort of ponder over, which I really like. Number 2, I'm going to go for Just Boy. I really like the sort of light in here, the sunset or sunrise, and the dog with the little naive person looking out into the horizon. Love the colour in it. I love how it links to the lyrics to the end of the song. Really nice. And for number 1, it's a toss-up really between a couple of the questions and answers artworks. It could have been this one. I think I like how sort of simple it is and the colours contrasting the white and the sort of bluey colour here. But I think the vinyl version of questions and answers is really unrivaled. I think there's something quite sort of sweet about it, rather than the filth that you see on the actual album cover. I really like the watercolours. These are kind of my favourite colours anyway, and the sea really relaxes me. So I think this has got to be my favourite of all the album artworks of the first 3 albums.
All the